The ground shook again. Lisa Grant pressed her face against the thick glass window and watched another section of their outer wall crumble under the alien attack. Dust and smoke filled the air outside. The terrible sound of enemy weapons echoed across the colony. "That's the fourth breach today," said Dr. Paul Martinez as he bandaged a wounded colonist. His hands were steady, but Lisa could see the worry in his eyes. They were running out of medical supplies. They were running out of everything. New Haven had been a peaceful mining colony just 18 months ago. Lisa remembered when the biggest problem was making sure the mining machines didn't break down. Now she was watching her home get destroyed. Piece by creatures that looked like giant insects with weapons. The Zephyrians had come without warning. Their ships had appeared in the sky one morning like dark clouds. At first, the colonists thought they might be traders or explorers. But then the shooting started. Lisa walked through the underground tunnels that had become their world. Families, huddled together in small rooms that used to store mining equipment. Children played quietly with broken toys. Their parents tried to smile, but everyone knew the truth. They were losing this fight? "Any word from Earth?" asked Kevin Torres. The young man had kept their communication systems working despite the constant attacks. His face was dirty and he looked tired, but he never gave up trying to send messages to Earth. "Nothing," Lisa said softly. "It's been 3 weeks since our last transmission got through." Kevin nodded and went back to work on the radio equipment. He had been sending the same message over and over. "This is New Haven Colony. We are under attack. Please send help." Repeat, "We are under attack." But Earth was so far away. Even if someone got their message, it would take months for help to arrive. If help came at all, the colony had never been important to the big Earth government. They were just miners on a small moon, far from the main shipping routes. Most people on Earth probably didn't even know New Haven existed. Carlos Rodriguez, the colony's security chief, came down the tunnel carrying his rifle. Before the attack, he had been more like a police officer, handling small disputes between miners. Now he was their military commander, leading farmers and engineers in battles against professional alien soldiers. "We lost the north entrance," he reported to Lisa, "but we sealed it off. They'll have to dig through a lot of rock to get to us." "That way," Lisa nodded. They had gotten good at collapsing tunnels and blocking passages. The mining explosives that used to break apart rocks now protected their homes. But every blocked tunnel made their world smaller. "How many people did we lose?" she asked. 2 wounded, no dead this time," Carlos said. "But we're down to our last month of food? Maybe less?" Lisa closed her eyes. 300 people depended on her decisions. 47 of them were children, under 12 years old. Some had been born here on New Haven. This was the only home they had ever known. The Zephyrians could have finished them weeks ago if they wanted to, but they seemed to enjoy the slow attack. They would hit one section of the colony, then pull back and wait, then hit somewhere else. It was like they were playing with their food before eating it. "Why don't they just finish us?" asked Mary Johnson, a teacher who now helped cook meals for everyone. "They have bigger ships, better weapons. They could destroy us any time." "Maybe they want something from the mines," suggested Kevin. "The rare metals we've been digging up are valuable." But Lisa had a darker thought. Maybe the aliens were using New Haven as practice. Maybe they wanted to learn how humans fought before attacking bigger colonies. Maybe the 300 people here were just training targets. She walked to the main shelter where most of the families stayed during attacks. The room had been a large storage area for mining tools. Now mattresses covered the floor and personal belongings hung from the walls. It smelled like too many people in too small a space. A little girl named Emma ran up to her. "Miss Lisa, when are we going home?" Lisa knelt down to Emma's level. The child was only 6 years old. She didn't understand that this underground tunnel was their home now, that their real homes above ground were nothing but rubble. "Soon, sweetie." Lisa lied. "We just have to wait a little longer." Emma smiled and ran back to play with the other children. They had made a game out of being quiet during attacks. The winner got extra dessert if there was any dessert to give. Dr. Martinez joined. Lisa as she watched the children play. "The adults are holding up well," he said quietly. "But the kids don't understand why they can't go outside anymore." "At least they still have hope," Lisa replied. That night, Lisa sat in the command center alone. The screen showed camera feeds from around the colony. Most of the cameras had been destroyed, but a few still worked. She could see Zephyrian soldiers moving around outside, like ghosts in the darkness. Their ships hung in the sky like metal moons. Sometimes she could see lights moving on them. She wondered what the aliens were thinking. Did they have families? Did they care about their children the way humans did? Her computer showed another day crossed off the calendar. 547 days since the attack began. Each day had been a small victory just by surviving it. Kevin appeared beside her with a cup of coffee made from their dwindling supplies. "Still no response from Earth," he said, "but I'll keep trying." Lisa nodded and sipped the weak coffee. It tasted terrible, but it was warm. "Do you think anyone's coming?" Kevin asked. Lisa looked at the screens showing the alien ships outside. She thought about the families sleeping in the tunnels below. She thought about Emma asking when they could go home. "I don't know," she said honestly. "But we have to keep believing someone will come. Because if we stop believing that, we might as well give up right now." Kevin nodded and went back to his radio. Lisa heard him start broadcasting again. "This is New Haven Colony. We are under attack. Please send help." Outside, the alien ships waited in the darkness like patient predators. But inside the tunnels, 300 humans refused to surrender. They had been forgotten by the galaxy, abandoned on a distant moon, facing an enemy they couldn't defeat, but they were still fighting. And as long as they could fight, there was still hope that someone, somewhere, would hear their call for help. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the battleship UES Liberty, reading the message that had just arrived from Earth Command. The words made his blood run cold. "New Haven Colony under attack. Zephyrian forces. Request immediate assistance. 18 months since first contact. Situation desperate." The message was old. It had taken months to travel through space to reach them. By now, New Haven might already be gone. "Sir," said Lieutenant Commander Amy Sullivan from her station. "Long-range scans show heavy Zephyrian presence in the Kepler system, at least 50 ships, maybe more." Jake had fought the Zephyrians before. They were tough, smart, and they never showed mercy. Their ships were bigger than human ships. Their weapons were stronger. In a fair fight, humans usually lost. "What's our fleet strength in that sector?" Jake asked. "Nothing, sir. The nearest Earth forces are 6 months away." Jake stared at the message again. 300 civilians trapped. On a mining colony, families with children. People who had trusted Earth to protect them. "Get me Admiral Davis," he ordered. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen a few minutes later. Frank Davis was an old soldier who had fought in every major battle of the last 20 years. His hair was gray and his face was marked with scars, but his eyes were still sharp. "Morrison, I know what you're thinking," the Admiral said before Jake could speak. "The answer is no. We can't spare an entire fleet for one small colony. Sir, there are 300 people down there. And there are 3 million people on other colonies that need our protection. I won't sacrifice a quarter of our fleet on a rescue mission that's probably already too late." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. "With respect, Admiral, those aren't just numbers on a report. They're human beings." "I know that, Captain, but I have to think about the bigger picture." The conversation went on for an hour. Other officers joined in. Some agreed with the Admiral. It was too dangerous. The strategic value was too small. The odds of success were almost zero, but Jake had served on the outer colonies. He knew what it felt like to be alone in the dark, hoping someone would come to help. He knew the fear that crept into your heart when you realized the galaxy was bigger and emptier than you had ever imagined, Commander. Helen Walsh supported Jake's position. She was the fleet's best pilot, a woman who had never backed down from a fight. "We can't abandon them," she said simply. "If we do, what does that say about who we are?" Sergeant Major Carlos Rodriguez agreed. He was a tough Marine who had fought on a dozen worlds. I've been where those people are, he said. Surrounded, outnumbered, wondering if anyone remembered. They existed. We can't leave them. The debate continued for days. Earth's military leaders argued back and forth. Some called it suicide. Others called it the right thing to do. Finally, Admiral Davis made his decision. We're sending a task force, he announced. 12 ships. The best we have? If you can get those people out alive, do it. But if you can't, don't throw away good ships and good people for nothing. Jake felt relief flood through him. Thank you. Sir, don't thank me yet, Morrison. You're about to take on the worst odds in human military history. The Zephyrians outnumber you 50-1. Their ships are better, their weapons are stronger. By all logic, you should all be dead within an hour of arriving. Then why are you letting us go? The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Because sometimes logic isn't enough. Sometimes you have to do what's right even when it's impossible. The Liberty and 11 other ships began preparing for the longest journey most of their crews had ever made. The ships were loaded with supplies, weapons, and the best soldiers Earth had to offer. Jake walked through the ship as his crew got ready. In the hangar bay, Marines checked their weapons and armor. These were men and women who had volunteered for the most dangerous missions. They knew they might not come back. Scared? Asked Rodriguez as he loaded magazines into his rifle. Terrified, Jake admitted, but those people are counting on us. Rodriguez nodded. That's the only thing that matters. In another part of the ship, Commander Walsh was briefing her pilots. We're going up against the best the Zephyrians have, she told them. Their fighters are fast and their pilots are good. But they've never fought humans who are protecting their own people. One young pilot raised his hand. Commander, what if? We can't win? Walsh smiled grimly. Then we make sure they remember fighting us. We make sure they know the price of attacking human colonies. The news of the mission spread through the fleet quickly. Everyone knew they were heading into almost certain death, but nobody asked to be transferred to other ships. Nobody complained about the odds. Ryan Campbell, the communications specialist, had family on the outer colonies. My sister lives on a mining station, he told Jake. Not much different from New Haven. If she was trapped there, I'd want someone to come for her. Dr. Sandra Kim, the ship's medical officer, was preparing for massive casualties. I've set up emergency surgery stations throughout the ship, she reported. We'll be ready for whatever happens. The journey would take 6 weeks through hyperspace. 6 weeks to cross half the galaxy to reach a colony that might already be dead. 6 weeks to prepare for a battle they couldn't win, but Jake had learned something during his years in service. Sometimes the battles you can't win are the most important ones to fight. On the night before they left Earth's solar system, Jake called his crew together in the main hangar. Hundreds of sailors, Marines, and pilots gathered around him. I won't lie to you, he told them. We're probably not coming back from this. The enemy outnumbers us. They have better ships and better weapons. Every tactical analysis says we should lose. He paused and looked at their faces. Young and old, men and women, veterans and new recruits. All of them had volunteered for this mission. But there are 300 people on New Haven who are counting. On us. They've been fighting for 18 months with mining equipment and pure stubbornness. They've held out this long because they believe someone will come for them. Jake's voice got stronger. We are going to be that someone. We are going to show the galaxy that humans don't abandon their own. We are going to prove that sometimes. Against all odds, the good guys win. The cheers echoed through the hangar. Men and women who knew they were sailing toward their deaths cheered anyway. The fleet left Earth system the next morning. 12 ships carrying humanity's finest warriors on a mission that should have been impossible. As they jumped into hyperspace, Jake thought about the message from New Haven. 300 people waiting in the dark, hoping someone would come. We're coming, he whispered to the stars. Hold on just a little longer, we're coming. Behind them, Earth grew smaller until it was just another star. Ahead of them lay the unknown and a battle that would test everything humans believed about themselves, but they were no longer just sailors and soldiers. They were heroes sailing into legend, carrying the hopes of an entire species on their shoulders. The rescue of New Haven had begun. 6 weeks later, the Earth fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. What they saw made even the veteran officers hold their breath. Zephyrian ships filled the space around New Haven like a swarm of metal insects. Dozens of massive warships, each one twice the size of the Liberty. Hundreds of smaller fighters patrolling in perfect formations. The alien fleet was so large it blocked out some of the stars. "My God," whispered Amy Sullivan as she read the sensor data. "There are over 60 capital ships. We counted maybe 50 in our intelligence reports." Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching the enemy fleet through the main screen. He had known the odds were bad. Now he realized they were even worse than anyone had imagined. "Can you get a reading on the colony?" he asked. Ryan Campbell worked at his instruments. "Barely, sir. Their power output is very weak. But they're still there, still alive." Jake felt a mixture of relief and fear. The colonists had survived 18 months of attacks. But from the sensor readings, they were barely hanging on. "All ships, this is Morrison," he broadcast to the fleet. "We knew this wouldn't be easy. The enemy has more ships than we expected, but those people down there have been waiting for us. We're not going to let them down." Commander Helen Walsh's voice came over the communication system from her fighter carrier. "Sir, request permission to launch scouts. We need to know their patrol patterns. Granted, but stay hidden. We need the element of surprise." Walsh and her pilots had spent the 6-week journey studying everything they could about Zephyrian tactics. The aliens were disciplined and organized, but they had patterns. Every military force had patterns if you looked hard enough. Down on New Haven, Kevin Torres was working on the communication array when something made him look at his instruments twice. "Lisa, you need to see this." Lisa Grant rushed to the communication center. She had aged years in the past weeks. Their food was almost gone. Their weapons were running out of power. The Zephyrians were preparing for their final attack. "What is it?" she asked. Kevin pointed at his screen with shaking hands. "I'm picking up new signals, human signals, military frequency." Lisa stared at the display. After months of silence, after giving up hope so many times, the impossible was happening. "This is New Haven Colony," Kevin broadcast. "Is anyone out there?" The response came immediately. "New Haven, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We're here to get you out." Lisa felt her knees go weak. She grabbed Kevin's chair to keep from falling. Around the communication center, other colonists heard the message and began to cry with relief. "Earth ships?" Lisa managed to say, "How many?" 12 warships, ma'am. We're going to need you to hold your position for a few more hours while we deal with the welcoming committee up here." Dr. Paul Martinez appeared at Lisa's shoulder. "Did I hear right?" "Earth sent ships?" Lisa nodded, too emotional to speak. After 18 months of abandonment, someone had come for them. But up in space, Jake was studying the tactical situation. The Zephyrian fleet was positioned perfectly to defend the colony. They had sensor nets covering every approach. Their ships were arranged in overlapping fields of fire. Getting to New Haven would mean going through all of them. "Sir," said Amy Sullivan, "I'm reading Zephyrian communication chatter. They know we're here." As if to prove her point, a transmission came from the alien fleet. The voice was harsh and mechanical, but the English was clear. "Human vessels, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now, and we will allow you to leave this system alive." Jake opened the channel to reply. "This is Captain Morrison to the Zephyrian fleet. You have 12 hours to withdraw from this system. After that, we start taking prisoners the hard way." There was silence for a moment, then alien laughter came over the communication system. "Your 12 ships against our fleet? You're either very brave or very stupid." "Probably both," Jake muttered, then spoke louder. "We're here for our people. You can leave peacefully or you can leave in pieces. Your choice." The alien commander's response was cold. "We choose to destroy you. Your species will learn that the Zephyrian collective shows no mercy to those who oppose us." Jake closed the channel and turned to his crew. Well, we tried diplomacy. All ships prepare for combat. Fighter squadrons launch when ready. Helen Walsh was already in her fighter, leading the first wave of attacks. Her squadron, nicknamed the Angels, had trained for this moment during the long journey from Earth. They burst from their carrier like arrows from a bow, diving toward the alien formation. Angel leader to all flights, Walsh broadcast. Remember, we're not trying to win a space battle. We're trying to clear a path to those people. Stay focused on the mission. The first engagement began in the asteroid field at the edge of the system. Earth's fighters used the floating rocks as cover, striking at Zephyrian patrols and disappearing before the larger ships could respond. Walsh's fighter screamed. Past a Zephyrian destroyer, her missiles striking its shield generators. Got one! She called out as explosions blossomed along the alien ship's hull, but for every small victory, the humans faced overwhelming odds. Zephyrian fighters swarmed after them like angry hornets. Their weapons were more powerful, their shields stronger. Young pilot Danny Foster found himself surrounded by 3 enemy fighters. His ship took hit after hit as he tried to escape. Angels, this is Foster. I'm not going to make it. Negative, Foster, Walsh replied, diving her fighter toward his position. Nobody dies alone today. She arrived just in time, her guns cutting through one of the alien fighters. Foster's ship was badly damaged, but he was alive. Back on the Liberty, Jake watched the battle on his tactical display. His fighters were holding their own, but they couldn't keep this up forever. The Zephyrian fleet was starting to move, bringing their heavy warships toward the planet. Sir, reported Amy Sullivan, enemy fleet is changing formation. They're moving to intercept us, Jake nodded. He had expected this. The aliens weren't going to let Earth's ships reach New Haven without a fight. All ships, this is Morrison. Form up for attack formation? We're going through them. The 12 Earth warships moved toward the massive alien fleet like David approaching. Goliath, their hulls gleamed in the light of the system's star. Their weapons were charged and ready. Down on New Haven, the colonists watched through their few remaining cameras as lights began to flash in the sky above them. The battle for their freedom had begun. They actually came for us, whispered Carlos Rodriguez as he watched the space battle. After all this time, they actually came. Lisa Grant stood beside him, tears running down her face. I never really believed it would happen. I kept hoping, but I never really believed. Kevin Torres was recording everything his instruments could detect. Future generations need to know about this, he said. They need to know that someone was willing to cross the galaxy to save us. In space, the first direct clash between the fleets began. Zephyrian heavy cruisers opened fire with weapons that could crack planets. Earth's ships responded with everything they had. The battle for New Haven had truly begun. 12 human ships against an alien armada, fighting for the lives of 300 people who had never given up hope. It was impossible odds. It was certain death. It was exactly the kind of fight that humans had been preparing for their entire history. And in the darkness between the stars, heroes were about to be born. The battle raged for 3 days and nights. Space around New Haven became a graveyard of burning ships and floating debris. Human and alien vessels fought in a deadly dance among the stars. Commander Helen Walsh had lost half her squadron in the first day of fighting. Her fighter was scarred with laser burns and running on emergency power, but she kept flying. Every minute she stayed in the fight was another minute the colonists stayed alive. Angel leader to all remaining flights, she broadcast as another wave of Zephyrian fighters approached. We've got company coming in fast. Stay together and watch each other's backs. The dogfight that followed was brutal. Zephyrian pilots were skilled and their ships were fast. But the human pilots fought with something the aliens couldn't understand. They were fighting for people they had never met, but refused to abandon. Danny Foster, his fighter held together with emergency repairs, managed to destroy 2 enemy ships before his weapons ran out of power. I'm dry, he reported, returning to base. Negative, Foster, Walsh replied. Use your ship as a missile if you have to. Those people are counting on us. Foster looked at his tactical display. A Zephyrian heavy fighter was moving toward the colony, probably planning to attack the colonists directly. Without thinking, he turned his powerless fighter toward the enemy ship. "Tell my mom I did something worthwhile," he said calmly, then rammed his fighter into the alien vessel at full speed. Both ships exploded in a brief flash of light. Helen. Walsh watched her young pilot die and felt something cold settle in her heart. These aliens wanted to play for keeps. Fine, humans could play that game too, on the surface of New Haven. The colonists felt the ground shake as pieces of destroyed ships crashed around their colony. The sky above them was filled with fire and explosions. Sergeant Major Carlos Rodriguez had organized the remaining colonists into defensive positions around the underground entrances. They had learned that some Zephyrian soldiers were trying to land and attack them directly. "Remember," he told the civilian defenders, "these bugs want us dead. But we've made it this far. We're not giving up now." Dr. Paul Martinez had set up his medical station near the main entrance. He was treating wounded defenders with supplies that had run out weeks ago. But he kept working, using whatever he could find. A young miner named Pete Wilson came running into the medical area, carrying his rifle and bleeding from his arm. "Doc, there's a whole squad of them trying to break through the north tunnel." Martinez bandaged the wound quickly. "Can you still shoot?" "Yes, sir." "Then get back out there. We need every person we can get." Kevin Torres had turned his communication station into a command center, relaying information between the underground defenders and the space battle above. "The Earth ships are holding their own," he reported to Lisa Grant, "but they're taking heavy damage." Lisa watched the battle through their remaining cameras. She could see the Liberty, the lead Earth ship, moving through the alien fleet like a shark among smaller fish. Its hull was scarred and several sections were venting atmosphere, but it kept fighting. "How are they doing it?" she wondered aloud. 12 ships against so many. "They're fighting for us?" said Carlos Rodriguez simply. "That makes them stronger than they know." In space, Captain Jake Morrison was coordinating the battle from his damaged bridge. Half his crew was dead or wounded. His ship's weapons were running low on ammunition, but they were still in the fight. "Sir," reported Amy Sullivan from her station, "the Zephyrian flagship is moving toward the planet. If it gets in range, it can destroy the colony from orbit." Jake looked at his tactical display. The alien command ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Liberty. Its weapons could turn New Haven into a crater in minutes. "All ships, this is Morrison," he broadcast. "We need to stop that flagship, whatever it takes." The remaining Earth vessels turned toward the massive alien ship. They were outgunned and outnumbered. But they had come too far to fail now. The Liberty led the attack, its guns blazing as it charged toward the enemy flagship. Zephyrian escort ships tried to intercept, but the other Earth vessels held them off, sacrificing themselves to clear a path. Jake watched 3 of his ships die in explosions of light and metal. Good ships with good crews, all giving their lives for people they had never met. "Sir," said Ryan Campbell from the communication station, "I'm getting reports from the surface. Zephyrian ground forces are attacking the colony directly." On New Haven, the battle had moved into the tunnels themselves. Alien soldiers with advanced weapons were fighting against colonists with mining tools and determination. Kevin Torres found himself face to face with a Zephyrian warrior in one of the main corridors. The alien was 7 feet tall with armor that gleamed like black metal. Its weapons could have cut through steel, but Kevin had something the alien didn't expect: a mining charge rigged to explode. "Welcome to New Haven," he said, and detonated the explosive. The tunnel collapsed, burying both Kevin and the alien. But it also sealed off that entrance, preventing more enemies from getting through. Dr. Martinez heard the explosion and knew what it meant. Another brave person had given their life to protect the others. He kept working on the wounded, but tears ran down his face. Above them, the space battle reached its climax. The Liberty had reached the Zephyrian flagship and was engaged in a point-blank firefight. Both ships were taking terrible damage. "Hull breach on decks 7 through 12, reported Amy Sullivan. "We're losing life support in the forward sections." Jake knew his ship was dying. They had maybe minutes before the damage became too much to survive. But the alien flagship was still operational, still capable of destroying the colony. He made a decision that would be remembered for centuries. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's intercom. "It's been an honor serving with you. Amy, get everyone to the escape pods." "Sir, what are you doing?" Jake was already programming the ship's navigation system. "I'm making sure those people get to go home." Amy realized what he was planning. "Captain, no, there has to be another way." "There is no other way," Jake said calmly. "And even if there was, this is what we came here to do." He activated the ship's emergency lockdown, preventing anyone from reaching the bridge. Then he aimed the Liberty directly at the heart of the alien flagship and pushed the engines to maximum power. The two massive ships collided in an explosion that lit up the entire system. Both vessels were destroyed instantly, along with everyone aboard them, but Jake Morrison's sacrifice had broken the Zephyrian fleet's command structure. Without their flagship and its commanding officers, the alien ships began to fall back in confusion. Helen Walsh, still flying her battered fighter, watched the explosion and knew what it meant. "All remaining ships, this is Angel Leader. The captain bought us a chance. Don't waste it." The surviving Earth vessels pressed their attack, driving the confused Zephyrian fleet away from New Haven. The aliens had lost their nerve along with their leadership. On the colony's surface, the alien ground forces began to retreat as their ships abandoned them. The colonists emerged from their tunnels to see their enemies fleeing across the barren landscape. Lisa Grant stood in the ruins of her colony's main entrance, watching Zephyrian ships disappear into hyperspace. After 18 months of siege, the sky above New Haven was finally clear. "Is it over?" asked a little girl who had spent most of her life hiding in tunnels. Lisa picked up the child and looked at the stars where brave people had died to save them. "Yes, sweetheart, it's over. We're safe now." But the cost had been enormous. 7 of the 12 Earth ships were destroyed. Hundreds of sailors, Marines, and pilots had given their lives. Heroes like Captain Morrison and Danny Foster and Kevin Torres would never see their homes again, yet their sacrifice had meaning. 300 colonists were alive because of what they had done. And the galaxy had learned something important about humanity. When their people were in danger, humans would cross any distance and face any odds to bring them home. The battle for New Haven was over. But the legend of what happened there was just beginning. 6 months after the battle, New Haven looked completely different. Where once there had been a small mining colony, now stood a fortress. Earth had sent construction ships, supply vessels, and military engineers to rebuild the settlement into something that could never be conquered again. Lisa Grant stood in the new command center, watching ships arrive from Earth with more supplies and personnel. She wore the uniform of an Earth Defense Force commander now. The surviving colonists had voted to join the military as a forward operating base. "Hard to believe it's the same place," said Dr. Paul Martinez as he joined her at the observation window. He had stayed on New Haven to run the new medical facility, training combat medics who would serve throughout the galaxy. Lisa nodded. "Sometimes I still can't believe they came for us." 300 people on a forgotten mining moon, and they sent 12 warships. The memorial garden outside the command center honored those who had died in the battle. Captain Jake Morrison's name was carved at the top, followed by the names of every sailor, Marine, and pilot who had given their life for New Haven. But it also included the colonists who had died defending their home, like Kevin Torres and Pete Wilson, Amy Sullivan. Now Captain Sullivan and commander of the new orbital defense station visited the memorial every day. She had been rescued from the Liberty's wreckage and given command of New Haven's permanent defenses. The children asked about him, she told Lisa one day as they stood before Morrison's memorial stone. They want to know what kind of man would sacrifice his ship to save people he'd never met. "What do you tell them?" Lisa asked. "I tell them he was just a human being who understood what that meant." The battle had changed more than just New Haven. Word of the rescue had spread throughout human space and beyond. Other alien races had taken notice of what had happened. The message was clear: attack one human colony, And you face the entire human military. The Zephyrian Collective had withdrawn from 3 star systems after New Haven. Their intelligence reports described human forces as unpredictably dangerous and recommended avoiding direct conflict whenever possible. Commander Helen Walsh had survived the battle and been promoted to admiral. She now commanded the New Haven Defense Fleet, a permanent force stationed to protect the colony and surrounding systems. "We get reports every week," she told Lisa during one of their regular meetings. "Pirates who used to raid human settlements are staying away. Alien empires that were considering expansion into our territory are having second thoughts because of what happened here." Walsh nodded. "They've realized that humans don't just abandon their people. We'll fight impossible odds to protect even the smallest settlement. That makes us dangerous in a way they didn't expect." The children of New Haven had grown up hearing the stories of the battle. Emma, the little girl who had asked Lisa when they could go home, was now 7 years old and wanted to join the Earth Defense Force when she grew up. "I want to be like Captain Morrison," she told Lisa one day. "I want to save people who need help." Lisa smiled and hugged the child. "He would be proud of you for saying that." The colony's new school taught children from across the sector. Parents from other worlds sent their kids to New Haven because they knew it was the safest place in known space. The children learned about courage, sacrifice, and the importance of never abandoning others in need. Carlos Rodriguez had become the colony's military commander, training new recruits who came from across human space to serve at New Haven. Many of them came specifically because they had heard the story of the battle. "Why New Haven?" Rodriguez asked each new recruit. "Why did you volunteer to serve here?" The answers were always similar: because this is where humans proved we don't leave each other behind, because this is where heroes were born, because I want to be part of something that matters. The mining operations had resumed, but they were secondary now. New Haven's real export was hope. The colony had become a symbol that inspired humans throughout the galaxy. Ryan Campbell's brother had taken over the communication station, maintaining the same frequency that Kevin had used to call for help. Sometimes colonists from other worlds would contact New Haven just to hear a human voice, to know that someone was listening. "This is New Haven," the younger Campbell would say. "How can we help you?" It had become more than just a greeting. It was a promise. Dr. Martinez had written a book about the siege and rescue. It was required reading at every Earth military academy. The chapter about Kevin Torres' sacrifice was particularly popular among engineering students. "They need to understand," Martinez explained to Lisa, "that heroes aren't just the people with guns and ships. Sometimes the most important heroes are the ones who fix the radio, or tend the wounded, or just refuse to give up when everything seems hopeless." The book's dedication was simple: to the 300 who refused to surrender and the hundreds who died to save them. 5 years after the battle, alien diplomats would sometimes visit New Haven. They came to see the place where human determination had defeated impossible odds. Most left with a better understanding of why humans were considered so dangerous. A Zephyrian ambassador had once asked Lisa what made humans different from other species. "We remember our own," she had answered. "Every human life matters to us, no matter how far away or how small their colony. Attack one of us and you attack all of us." The ambassador had filed a report recommending that the collective avoid any future conflicts with human colonies. "They fight not just for territory or resources," the report stated, "but for each other. This makes them unpredictable and extremely dangerous." But it wasn't just about military deterrence. The story of New Haven had become part of human culture. Children across the galaxy learned about Captain Morrison and his crew. Songs were written about the battle. Artists created paintings of Earth's ships, descending from the sky like angels. The phrase, "Remember New Haven," became a rallying cry for human forces throughout the galaxy. It meant that no one would be forgotten, no one would be abandoned, and no sacrifice would be in vain. Lisa often stood in the memorial garden at sunset, when the system star painted the sky in shades of gold and red. She would read the names carved in stone and remember the people who had died so that others could live. Danny Foster, the young pilot who had rammed his fighter into an alien ship. Kevin Torres, who had sealed a tunnel with his own life. Captain Morrison, who had guided his ship into the enemy flagship. Hundreds of names, each representing someone who had chosen to sacrifice themselves for others. Do you think they knew? Amy Sullivan asked one evening as they stood together in the garden. Do you think they knew what they were starting? Lisa considered the question. Around them, the colony buzzed with activity. Ships came and went, carrying supplies and personnel to the far reaches of human space. New recruits trained for missions that would take them to distant worlds. Children played games where they pretended to be heroes rescuing colonists. I think they knew exactly what they were doing, Lisa said finally. They were proving that humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our ships. It's that we refuse to abandon each other. The stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere among them were other human colonies, other families, other children who might someday need help. And they would know, because of what happened at New Haven, that someone would come for them, because the warriors of Earth had descended from the skies once, and they would do it again whenever they were needed. The battle for New Haven was over, but its legacy would last forever. It had shown the galaxy that humans were more than just another species struggling for survival among the stars. They were a people who would cross the void itself to save their own. And that made all the difference. The memorial garden grew quiet as night fell over New Haven, but the names carved in stone continued to shine in the starlight, eternal reminders of the day when help came from the sky and changed the galaxy forever. 300 colonists had been saved. But billions of humans throughout the galaxy had been given something even more valuable, the knowledge that they would never be forgotten. Never be abandoned, never be alone. That was the true victory of New Haven. That was why the warriors had come.